Hey everyone, welcome back to Weekly Daily Wednesdays. I'm Vin, that's Joe, that's Pedro, and everyone watching us live on Twitch. It's hilarious, isn't it? Every time I look at Twitch, I'm like, this is hilarious. What's going on?
Are you talking about the spam bots? People streaming without a whole lot of clothes on?
Okay, hang on.
Boy.
We got to roll this back a little bit. I have to appreciate some of the ingenuity in the spam bots because we've watched them evolve, even our small, tiny little channel, because I do some like rules for Nightbot to filter some of it out, and they're getting better, they're getting smarter. What I'm trying to say is we're contributing to the evolution of spam bots. It's probably not a good idea.
Yes.
Jill, you are the one who celebrates Thanksgiving in the statesides. How'd that go for you, man? Did you just like end up in a food coma afternoon? Or?
No, I don't usually eat that enough to do that, let alone turkey. I mostly tried to stick to ham and all the appetizers instead of the turkey. But I did have a little turkey. But I had 2 Thanksgivings last Thursday.
So you're
one with
like
my
a Hobbit style Thanksgiving, huh? Second Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, several meals scattered throughout the day, but it had a wonderful time. It was so nice being with my brother and nephew and family. So that was awesome. And having the day off was nice because I worked the rest of the week.
That's just the tryptophan talking, man.
Yeah.
Pedro, you did arts and crafts.
Well, IKEA crafts. Because that's literally what happened here. Yes, if you were on Discord yesterday, probably saw us say, I have a new desk. And then I did the stream immediately after finishing putting this up and turning it all on, as you see in that picture there. It is, that was like 3 hours of moving everything out of the old desk setup, getting everything out of the way, cleaning, because that Alex on the left had been in the same position for over a year, so that was a lot of crap.
Hey man,
But, yeah, it is.
What's up with the robe? You summed up a like cult leader or something? What's going on there?
You should watch Saturday night's podcast one of these days. I know listening is what all the cool kids are doing.
I wouldn't recommend
But you
it.
should watch.
Pedro, I like that you chose black and white for your Alex drawers, just instead of just the standard white that all.
Oh, he was going on it for hours. He was like, it was the same, purely aesthetics.
I wanted everything black.
Yeah.
I wanted the black tabletop and the other Alex to be also black.
Had
They don't have
nothing
them
to do
anymore.
with them being out of the colors.
Oh, that's what's going on.
It's like IKEA doesn't have black anything anymore. It's either a dark gray, blue, a very light wood, or white. It's like,
White.
okay, then.
You know what? There's nothing wrong
gray
with
for the tabletop and white for the other one, and then we'll
Think about it like
intersperse the
this.
drawers.
How many
There.
times have you like,
Perfect.
stepped back from a situation that you had to put together with spare parts? Be like, aesthetically, it came out all right. Then we have Pedro's desk.
It looks great.
Which it wasn't spare parts. I literally ordered these because it's like, okay, I need this desk. Well, I don't need it. I want this desk configuration, and I have it now. And it was only like 85 pounds, so
All right.
I'm okay.
Right on.
I got out of it for less than 100 pounds. I'm okay.
And Pedro is not violating one rule. He's violating one rule in stereo by having 2 PCs on his desk.
Correct.
Yeah.
2 PCs, 3 monitors, one of them, all completely different monitors, every single one of them. This one's 2K, this one's 4K, that one is 1080p in portrait mode.
Yeah. Which this isn't the problem here. We have advanced sound filtering technology, but it's always my favorite thing I get, Pedro, when someone's like, why do I have all this fan noise? Like, look to your left, look to your right. Do you see anything blinking, spinning?
I need light. So that's why that's on.
I was up to something. I'm getting everything together for December's Interfacing Linux, which is going to be kind of interesting because this is kind of like a redemption. It's the full story arc of a device that caused me to create Interfacing Linux. There's a nice little preview of it. I got some of the bits. I still got to do all the wordy bits and rearrange the entire order of the thing 11 times because that's how I roll, apparently. But at the end, there will be a cohesive story because it's going to be about the DigiDesign 003 ARM, which I just found, perusing, just looking around this couple of years ago now. It's like early 2019. And I saw that, it's like, man, that thing's got crazy good specs, and they're going for like $100. So, I did the cursory, like, hey, does this work on Linux? And I found a site. I was like, hey, the 002, 003 drivers are available for Linux. They're awesome. They work. Also drivers. I'm like, that's great. I get it. Plug it in, install the kernel modules and and it's just got like this ticking thing anytime I try to record. And of course I went back to that site and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's a known issue. 100%. That's a problem.
Oh.
And that's where it clicked. I'm like, this is not good. There's an entire post outlining how it was reverse engineered and all the great work that went into it, but it didn't include by the way, this is not usable as an audio interface under Linux. And that's when we need to do something about this. And I'm just going to, if I could do it out of pocket, I'm going to do it out of pocket. So that's where that entire series of, I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit, not 100%, but I can tell you whether or not something works correctly under Linux. So you have a chance of just not buying something and going, oops, I guess that's not going to work. Plus you'll save yourself some money. So I'll probably, I don't even know when, maybe at the end of the week, I'll have that up for patrons so you can do your little snack pick and go over it with a fine tooth. Well, actually, and get back to me and I'll make any corrections, any glaring errors, spelling mistakes, all that fun stuff. And it'll probably be out second, third week of this month because it's December, as I found out this morning.
Yeah, can you believe that?
We'll just have to pour one out for my French audio interface on that topic. I am still upset about it, man. I'm like, boo, I should have bought that yesterday because it was a decent price. Let's start off with traditional Linux news in haiku format.
No. Let's not do poetry. Because everyone knows I'm not good at it. See, it doesn't work. I can't get the syllable count right ever. So whenever I'm put on the spot to do a haiku, I can never do it. These people, on the other hand, they put themselves on the spot to create a operating system based on B. And wouldn't you know it, they've actually been doing a very, very good job of it over the past few years. And this is Vulkan in haiku. Admittedly, it's going through Lava Pipe, LLVM, and it's software rendering, so you still don't have any GPU acceleration, but it's Vulkan. It's working. It's progress. That's
Blender's
there's
running.
a lot of work.
Yeah. OpenGL over Zinc,
Blender's
man.
running. There's a couple of bugs if you try to use Zinc. Yeah. If you try
of course, that's going to be in there naturally. Never mind. All right.
Hatsune Miku. But yeah, no, if you try to use Zinc, there's a couple of bugs. And this was only really tested from the what I read on Radeon card. So your AMD Radeon cards. I expect that if it works for the Radeon, it probably will work for Intel in the not too distant future, or probably already does, because I did load it on my X240 and I didn't try any of the fancy stuff. I didn't try Zinc. I just wanted to see, okay, I've installed it. Everything is still working. I'm not entirely sure if it's doing anything because it's all software rendered, but it's technically working. So yeah,
Nice.
it's impressive. It is impressive the amount of stuff that they had to write from scratch because they ported a lot of it from Linux, but a lot of stuff that just didn't work at all because they have a completely different base operating system. So they had to write a lot of stuff from scratch. So that's impressive. That's very good.
NVIDIA released some proprietary drivers for haiku. I dare you.
Yeah. So it was really nice to see OpenGL over Zinc, and RadV on Haiku has been tested with Blender. They said it does work a bit slow as expected, but I'm sure that will improve as they develop it more. And I just think it's so nice to see our favorite BOS derivative getting Vulkan love and 3D acceleration. This is actually really, really cool. Something so unexpected.
Something I've always been curious about, and to this day is, has there been any work done for the Raspberry Pi? Because when I think about Haiku, I think about, the origins of the BOS, something that would work on what you would consider modern day CPU requirements, a potato, but it was capable of doing, it was wicked fast, multitasking, had all the bits. And I just think that would be a perfect target for, a lightweight 3D accelerated desktop experience on a little thing we call Raspberry Pi. It might even be overkill, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe somebody's working on it, or maybe it's just like, well, you do it yourself. Okay.
That's the thing. I think there's a lot of people looking at Haiku because they've probably tried Linux, like, that's a little too easy. They went to BSD. It's like, those people are crazy. And then it's like, okay, so what are my options? Windows, Mac? No, Haiku.
Just looking at some
and
of
React
the,
OS. Yeah.
That's trying desperately to be Windows, though.
Yeah.
looking at some of the screenshots in the forum thread, all this is going to be in our show notes. I was definitely having some things way back when to, like, the weekend project of trying to get the Mesa 3D example teapot working correctly through hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember
Now
that
it's just GLX gears.
Yeah.
Can you GLX gears? Done.
Done.
I wish him the best of luck. Up next, we have something that Pedro just tossed in the show notes because it's like, hey, man, I
You
bet
can thank Mir for that one.
Ben was having this nice day and everything was going swimmingly. And, well, you know
It
what?
triggered Ven.
We have some excellent work being done by the Fedora project. And one of the things they're going to be working on is workstation live streaming compa.
The wiki pages on the Fedora wiki, they need better titles. They have a secondary title below the index, which is better, as in it's complete, but the top one is bad.
I'm against revisionist history, Pedro. This is live streaming compa. And what do we have? What do we have? Man, what don't we have? Okay. I got to be fair about this. They started from the last decade. I can only speak to have being someone who has been streaming from Linux for the last decade, probably more than anybody else. But I say that without any ego whatsoever, man, because I'm looking at this. I got to assume this was kind of hastily thrown together. This is like a skeleton for some information to get tacked onto at some point. But they got a good idea. They intend to gather support from vendors and industry players to build momentum around this initiative. What would you think is the initiative where it sits to just get more people broadcasting and streaming from Linux, maybe?
I think that's the point. It's very much streaming games, streaming coding sessions, streaming development in general, that kind of stuff. So get all at least like a basic set of hardware and the software that you're going to need, which for the hardware bits, there were a couple of strange choices. Specifically, well, there was one strange choice. For the USB capture card, they recommend the Magewell 4K one. When you have the EVGA, not this specific one, this one is a little too expensive, but the one that Van has that is like half the price of this does the same thing, UVC compliant. The EVGA XR1 Lite, probably a better choice, or the Asus ROG one, which actually advertises Linux support on its official page. The other thing that kind of jumped out at me, not a bad thing, a very interesting thing. The smartphone is a webcam. Everyone has tried to do that. Mm-hmm. And yes, most phones have better cameras than your webcam does, obviously. So they say USB to HDMI adapters and extend KDE Connect integrated with libcamera and Pipewire so you can have everything. You just put your phone on the stand, KDE Connect with it over Wi-Fi, and boom, camera.
Yeah, nice.
Please make that work. Please.
That
sounds amazing.
That sounds to me like pressing activate on the NDI app.
IP cam, yes.
On Android. That sounds like somebody wants to make use of PipeWire versus getting stuff done. I'm in the business of getting stuff done, kids. I don't pick favorites. Not at all. And the first thing I'm going to say from this list, you know what? I'm going to strongly suggest this is adding all devices and software with official Linux support. The people who are currently actively supporting Linux, be it on desktop, server, wherever. And I'm talking about Magewell. I'm talking about AJA. I'm talking about Blackmagic. I'm talking about Nvidia. I'm talking about Digigram. I'm also talking about Audio Science. Some of those you're not going to hear. You're like, what? Moonspeak. Professional stuff, but it's there. And, you can get some of the stuff secondhand. But all companies that provide official support for their AV hardware should be listed there. And they have the Magewell, which is like the UVC Magewell that's going to work on anything. Mm-hmm. It's a webcam. Even RME in the audio side, you got to give them an honorable mention because for 20 plus years, they have been providing the special bits to the open source community so they can create drivers for their audio interfaces. I know that because I'm using some right now in my RME Hammerfall. Now, DaVinci Resolve, missing from the video editors. Very curious option there because
Those
are all free though, aren't they?
Yeah,
where
it's
does
not
this
open
say,
source. That's probably why they didn't include it,
this
because
thing
this is
doesn't
Fedora.
say anything about open source or closed source at any point.
It's Fedora.
Don't care.
It's Fedora.
I don't care at all because where do you get you start and end with that, man? We're really going to be using open source solutions to do everything. What about you want to just use open source hardware to do everything too?
Ideally, yes, a lot of people would.
Yeah.
Again, I'm in the business of getting stuff done. That's why we have a Linux-powered studio that does anything a TriCaster can do it, that I built with spare parts from eBay. All right. Now, what else? Yeah, DaVinci Resolve, that should be a thing because you got to focus on what people are using, man. And that's a skill people are going to be able to take over. And you got Lightworks. That's also an option. And again, using the smartphones, NDI's got that covered. As far as PC to PC streaming, another thing, NDI. BitFocus Companion. Okay, you're going to be streaming. You're probably going to have this thing called a Stream Deck at some point. Not a Steam Deck, but a Stream Deck.
Stream Deck.
Probably going to have a Steam Deck too.
Yeah. Great little video. The open source Linux application that Linux is all the Linuxes to control that properly under Linux is called BitFocus Companion. You probably want to throw that project in there. I will take an issue at there. Talking about this in the pre-show. Go back and listen if you're a patron. There's no such thing as a high-end USB microphone. Just that's silly speak.
I like that they have the one link and it's just the Blue Yeti.
Yeah.
Where's the AT2020? The de facto standard that everyone recommends. You want a USB microphone? That sounds okay. AT2020.
Well, I mean, if you want a USB microphone that doesn't have the absolute cheapest bare minimum condenser parts in it, yes, AT2020. But Blue Yeti's got a better marketing team because it showed up better on Google when they were searching for this.
Yeah.
Now, NVEncode, I clicked the link because they were talking about what about hardware? How did they put it exactly? I want to make sure I'm right about this. Hardware encoding. You got Intel VAPI. That's also going to be available with AMD, but the amount of bandwidth you have to feed that to get usable results makes it a non-thing. Ask anybody with Intel or AMD streaming with OBS. NVEncode. I went to NVEncode and I clicked that and I found myself at a post from 2016 talking about compiling FFmpeg with NVEncode and setting up I was having flashbacks because that takes us back to 2016. In 2016, me and this guy from Lutris, I put together, and he scripted it, but I got all the bits together to actually build the FFmpeg with NVEncode support. Hey, me and Lutris, being buddy. What the moral of this story is, if you're using a distribution that doesn't ship or FFmpeg is not available with NVEncode built in, go to a different distribution because it's 2021. We need to grow up.
It's Fedora.
Or you use AMD.
Are they trying to imply that this is only going to work on Fedora? Where are we coming at?
No, I'm implying that they have questionable licensing when it comes to including certain things in their repos and not so much with the others.
Mm-hmm. Back to reality, kids. Here in the real world, you're going to need that with your proprietary NVIDIA drivers.
Yes. Yeah, that thing that Fedora doesn't include.
So
you got an RPM Fusion for that.
One of the things I will throw at the very end. No, I wish them all the best. What I'm interested in is I want to see some, the reach out to software developers. Things like, little trinky things like the Go XLR type stuff and interface drivers. And I'd like to see that support there. And I think Fedora project could absolutely, express some interest like they plan on doing. And we can get some leeway on some end user software applications and drivers with, better support. Then here's just the Also Stack plugin and it works. But how do I make it blink? Pretend you're Linus, the squeaky one. And you're going to be very upset, if your microphone has the ability to blink, but you have no way to make it blink. And
they actually mentioned that. They mentioned the Go
really?
XLR.
I was joking around.
Yeah.
That wasn't intentional. So yeah, I mean, this is it's a skeleton. It's a good initiative. Get started on it, and I'd like to see what develops. And I want to point this out as somebody who does a lot of streaming. Save yourself the heartache right now. Avoid Wayland, avoid Pipewire. It's not there yet. I want you to know this. If you're going to be using it, especially with OBS, if you're going to be using Wayland with OBS, you don't even bother with NVIDIA right now on top of the Wayland with the pipe wires. You're not going to have a good time. However, if you would like to help with that development and report bugs, please do that. Again, I'm coming at it from, I need all this stuff to work, and it does work currently. So that's like two different things. I really wish I had the resources to build like Threadbooper 2 to play with this stuff. Pedro, you can play with it. Joe, you can play with it. This thing's got to cut on when I come in here and hit the button. There's a reason I run Debian. It gets security updates, and we're good. So best of luck to the project, and good work from the Fedora project.
It's a start. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Either of you got any thoughts on that other than Pedro reminding me that the Fedora thing I'm reading from Fedora is in fact from Fedora?
It bears repeating because their decision to include some things that have questionable licenses versus other things that have the same licenses beyond me. But okay.
I've been running Fedora since Core 1, but it's good to get brought up to speed.
Fedora on the laptop too. It's like, I like the distro. It's just, there's some things I have questions.
That's just how they roll. There's like step one. Even with Debian, like step one is enabling non-free. Why? Because I need to use the system Debian. That's why.
Add yourself to the sudoers file. Disable the PC speaker.
You have a PC speaker?
Laptops do.
Aren't we fancy?
Yes.
So, Fedora, on the topic of.
Yeah. So speaking of Fedora, Amazon has just made a big announcement that Amazon Linux will rebase from Red Hat Enterprise Linux RHEL to Red Hat's Fedora. Woohoo! And it's now Amazon Linux 2022 is now available via AWS Control Panel as AMIs. And what's cool is it will have 2-year standard support with quarterly minor updates, followed by 3 years of maintenance support, which gets critical security updates as soon as they are available. Wonderful. And SC Linux will be enabled by default. And there's just, you'll have to read this article. There's a lot of good things going on with Amazon Linux. And to me, this is actually a really great move because it will put Red Hat's bleeding edge Fedora on even more cloud infrastructure and thus even more updates and innovation. And may help us in the streaming department as well. So.
There's a lot happening around Fedora lately, and you have a behemoth like, AWS. We're going to go to Fedora. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that's huge.
Things are becoming interesting. I'll give them that.
Amazon, do me a
Linux
favor.
enabled by default, and the server makes sense, but that's it.
Somebody on the branding and marketing team at Amazon, for the love of flying spaghetti monster, name your distribution Yes.
Instead of AL 2022.
I just want to be able to say, what's your stack on? Oz, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. The other cool thing about this is that Ubuntu, Canonical is teaming up with Microsoft to put Microsoft Server on a lot of servers and use WSL for Linux instead of using Linux bare bones, which is a little weird. So, yeah, the article brought that up.
Extend? Yeah, I think we're in the extend bit now.
I don't know. We got good news. Quick mention of this. We were talking about Wayland just a minute ago, and I think Wayland's in the future, and it's only 9 years away now. We blame a lot of people for that. It works for the latest GNOME, but what if you want to run a retro GNOME desktop, Pedro?
That's the thing. Even if you have like a slightly older version of GNOME, like the one that's being shipped with Ubuntu or Fedora, since we're just talking about them, if you have an Nvidia card, maybe you notice that things didn't work terribly well. Well, they've backported the Nvidia GBM stuff, literally what they called them, backport Nvidia GBM stuff to GNOME 41. There you go. You should be able to actually get it to start. They said it should be possible in about 3 commits, and the issue is closed now 5 days ago. So I think if you're pulling the current updates, or if your distro is tracking the most recent version of GNOME, even if it's the stable one, 41, maybe your Nvidia card will be able to get GDM up and running with Wayland. I do, however, wonder between, GNOME and KDE, the two big ones, which one will have the best experience with Wayland? All GPUs, Intel, AMD, Nvidia, whatever VIA is doing nowadays, Matrox, all of them. Just whatever GPU you happen to have, you load up GDM or SDDM for KDE. Which one of them will give you a picture on screen with no issues, regardless? Considering KDE's sordid history with Nvidia, I think GNOME's going to win that one.
Why is that? I genuinely do not keep track of slap fights between corporations and open source projects.
As someone who's been using KDE with Nvidia over the past many, many years, every single time that I've complained that it has crashed or NVIDIA specific bug, or the bug that Arthur posted in Discord a couple of days ago, that the NVIDIA drivers keep spamming the dbus thing because of a little incompatibility with KWin X11. It's not even Wayland. We're still on X, and the NVIDIA drivers and KDE do not like each other. They never have.
Let me tell you about XFCE.
I want a desktop environment.
Again, don't listen to me. I'm just trying to get stuff done.
Yeah. So I was really thinking that this should absolutely speed up things quite considerably in GNOME 41's desktop, with at least if you have an NVIDIA GPU, because there's sometimes a little hesitation when you're moving around the desktop. And this is a good thing, especially with Nvidia GPUs and on Fedora.
It's not GNOME in general, not necessarily just Fedora,
just
but
GNOME.
everything GNOME right now.
Yeah.
Just in case somebody's pulling up their Fedora, like, oh, you're hating it. Our co-host on Saturdays is Jordan from the Fedora, formerly working with Fedora project and all that fun stuff. But
yeah,
and I've been using Fedora probably longer than you've been using Linux. Keep that in mind. Now, mi casa, su casa, is that how that?
CasaOS. So Casa.
How do you say
OS
casa
means
in Portuguese?
Casa.
How boring.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I'm used to the Mexican pronunciation of it. In fact, I grew up in a house in Mexico. It was called Casa Loquito, or House of the Crazy One. That was my father, who rode 50-foot waves. So, anyways, this is CasaOS. Is a simple and easy to use open source home cloud system, which is based on the Docker cloud system. And this made me really happy. And because it uses Docker, it is easy to install a network attached storage and home smart applications with just one click. And there are apps for storing your camera recordings, controlling your lights, creating a cloud drive, or even an entertainment center or a VPN. You know, whatever your heart desires. And
I'm not going to let it slide.
Awesome,
There's a unicorn in here.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes, they're refactor. Oh, I didn't notice that before.
Unicorn refactor.
Everything's just regular unicorn. All right.
Yeah.
As you were.
So CasaOS is compatible with Ubuntu, Debian, Raspberry Pi OS, and CentOS with an easy one-liner installation. And it's still in early development. And the Icewell team is looking for contributions from developers and from testers in the Linux community. And I'm really looking forward to trying this because I've been wanting to use an open source home assistant. And I've even done that a little bit with the application Home Assistant. You know, it's the application Home Assistant has been around since 2013. So it's nice to have another open source option in this field.
Whatever
Definitely.
happened to Mycroft?
I'm sure it's still around, you monster.
Yeah.
Never heard anything else about Mycroft for a long time, so I just
Yeah,
wondered.
I'm not sure if
Only thing was
development
a
on
way
it.
to find
I remember reading something about the development had kind of stopped on it, but it may have started again. But I haven't checked that project in a while. I had used it years ago.
I like the idea of stuff like this, like CasaOS. It's an OS for your casa. Part of me likes very much, you know, the sci-fi thing of you walk into a place and you have a phone or a tablet, something in your pocket, you just grab it, and you're at home, so you have access to all of your home stuff from one device. Same thing for everyone else in the family, and then you go outside, and the OS on the phone becomes, okay, whatever came from the factory, because it's more secure. Let's pretend like that's a thing nowadays. But yeah, no, that idea of like you walk into a place and it gives you like, here's your operating system for this place. You can do this, you can do that, you can turn off the lights, you can turn on the TV, you can play music, you can play a movie, you can do all that stuff. I love that. I do. I like that.
So,
It's so convenient.
Mycroft is still alive and well. Last update 8 days ago. So
Oh, okay, good.
21 hours ago.
21
I
hours
saw
ago.
it 21 hours ago.
So yes, unfortunately, my co-host might have given an early burial. It is still very much actively developed.
I did no such thing. I just wondered whatever
Yeah.
happened to it.
Listen, it was a tag
Yeah.
team effort of random guessing. So
It was.
CasaOS, this thing originated as a pre-installed system for a crowdfunded project called the Zima board on Kickstarter, which I went and took a peek at. Mm-hmm. You know, with a new world we're living in. Of course, it's been delayed, but it seems like they've got most of the stuff there. But I did see some comments. You know, it's like a single board. Do I get a link in there? I might have a link because it looked like a slick piece of kit. I didn't see how much it cost. But some people were saying, by the time this thing ships, I'll move to a different house. Like, ooh.
You can take your computer with you.
There you go. I mean, listen, server, ice scraper, everything you ever look for in a personal NAS.
That looks like one of those clip-on attachments for like the hair trimmers.
Yeah, I was going to say on a razor. It looks like a man's razor. A metal razor.
More pictures of this thing. How much did it cost? I'm just poking around. 600
Zima board.
How much is 620
for the early bird? So add another 20% on that.
What is 620 HK in USD or sterling?
HK dollars. Let's see. 620 in Hong Kong dollars to
riveting entertainment.
GBP.
Aw. So our Theron actually said
how much? I couldn't hear you. Joe was
£60.
talking. £60.
£60.
That's not too bad. All right, Joe.
Well, I was just trying to keep it moving while Pedro was looking. But our Theron said there's a similar project to CasaOS already called Home Lab OS, and I've forgotten about that one. Yes, that is another good one.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if there's one thing I enjoy, it's MIDI. That's a lie. Despise the thing. But MIDI is a popular way of dealing with like virtual instruments and all this other fun stuff. I use it. This desk is covered in MIDI. It's dripping MIDI. And MIDI's changed over the years. Back in my day, we used to actually have to use the DIN cables and plug in and out and wire that. Mm-hmm. It was all kind of nonsense. And this fancy new technology, this is where I tell you get off my lawn, came out called USB. And lo and behold, people figured out how to send MIDI signals over the universal serial bus, and here we are today. Fortunately, this control surface, this is another thing you can do. You can control lights and all the fun stuff. I use it to control faders, plugins, and all the stuff for the show that we're using right now. But this one they're getting clever. It's also a USB hub. So I was able to plug this USB one into this one and then use one USB port. I was like, all right.
Daisy chaining.
That would be like a hub. Yeah. I've never looked into like a packet priority distribution through a USB hub, how that works. Like if is there any brains in that, or is it just yeets?
There's got to be some sort of microcontroller, because otherwise what happens if you get like all USB data lines congested? Which one takes priority? So it has to have some brains.
Possibly. Now, I am trying to find some decent images, and Google image search, the one time I needed to do something's not helping me out even a little bit. Quite sad about that.
The image I have in my head is like you have the crossroads, and then you have literal buses coming in from each side of the crossroads, and which one goes first? It's like, okay, that's the image I have in my brain of USB crowd control.
Well,
there's got to be a little chip in there for input and output packets, you would think.
That's a bunch of wires connected together. It's like I figured it out. It'll smash around till it gets bored, find its way home. The reason I bring this up is Vampire Frog has released a beta driver for MOTU MIDI Express. The 128 USB version is here. Now, a couple things you may need to throw out there. It's only available, it's only been tested in the 5X series kernels, and, the 5-port version may or may not work, but this is definitely 100% seeking testers. And I love a nice little reverse engineering project, and MOTU is very much used to it. That's the 128. Do I have some better? You can see on the back, you got 7 in, 7 out. Mm-hmm. And that's going to come in handy. I mean, if you get a bunch of keyboards and synths and all this other fun stuff plugged in, you might not have 11 USB holes on your laptop, especially. Mm-hmm. And you can plug this in, plug all your devices in, and it's going to work. Allegedly. That's where it needs some testing. So maybe go try it out. And I love seeing more and more stuff from Mark of the Unicorn get reverse engineered, because way back in the old times, in the early 2000s when they first came out. I don't have the original. Mark of the Unicorn was the first company to release a FireWire audio interface. They completely rewrote the game, changed the game, because before that it was a PCI card that you had to buy, like an Echo Layla or something like that, or an RME. And I was like, hey, we can use FireWire for audio. It's an awesome bus to do this, and USB wasn't the thing then. And of course, the Linux-loving miscreants were like, hey, we've seen that you've implemented a very non-standard way of this protocol, so could you give us the bits to, we'll sign an NDA, we just need to be able to figure out how to make a driver for it. And MOTU gave them a resounding, get wrecked, we're MOTU. Now, as we all know, the absolute fastest way to get your driver stack reverse engineered is not to release Linux drivers. So, the most thoroughly documented and reverse engineered drivers are for MOTU. That's why I have so many MOTU devices, because they're just rock solid. I mean, that was a principle, and I'm very glad to see that this is also available. Good times. Now, Jill, have you ever heard of Twitter?
Oh yes, I
Really?
use it every day for us and another Linux network constantly.
Pedro?
Yeah, I think I've been on there since 2012.
Yeah.
Noobs.
I've actually been on longer than mine says, because I had a different account before.
I could say that too.
Jill was doing naughty stuff on Twitter.
Oh, yeah. No. That's just like, oh man, I'm so embarrassed by that account. I had to wipe it from the internet. Now the entire internet's going to go find that account on Web Archive, and I look forward to all the emails next week with the. So
Well, I like being known as @Jill_Linux girl. So
I could go a lot of places with that, but I'm just not. So let's talk about a way to tweak your Twitter, because, like Pedro, me and Pedro live that TweetDeck life. That's the only way we're going to interface with Twitter, because we got to search for a lot of things, keep apprised of the news. But every now and then something pieces my heart. But you got to use the desktop Twitter client. And this is what this plugin takes care of. It is kind of brilliant. I've been using this for about a week. I mentioned it during the live stream last week, but I didn't say anything, but I want to play around with it. It's available for the Chromes, Firefoxes, the let's pretend it's not Chrome and call it Edge, that one, Opera, and everything else. Now, what does it do? It does a gang of things. It completely nukes the who to follow nonsense, the what's happening nonsense, the more tweets, and all the algorithmic tweets based on likes, and just all the crap that you
all the
don't
spam.
want to see. And how many times has this happened to you? Because I noticed this more on the not desktop, but the mobile app. I'll pull up the application, and all the tweets will be wrong. I'm like, what is this nonsense? Because they keep on cutting back on the.
No, we're showing you the most relevant tweets.
Yeah.
No, I want the tweets sorted by when they came out. I want to see the new tweets as they come. But this is better. No,
it's not. I'm not interested in anything you're trying to sell me right here. This is your AI. Your AI eats glue. And let's cut that part off so I can.
Oh, is that why the CEO person's leaving?
No. Okay. Here's
there's
a
that
little side
too.
thing. A lot of people are like, Jack Dorsey's been a figurehead for Twitter for the better part of a decade. He's not running anything. There's no victory lap to be had by anyone here.
Is he going to make NFTs?
Well, he's the CEO of Square.
Yeah.
So
right.
I'm sure his decision to leave Twitter has been a lot of it's been demonstrated multiple times of what he's been like. Hey, I'd like to see this happen at Twitter. Not going to happen. He wasn't steering the ship, kids. So. We'd like to invite you to come steer our ship That's right. You can do that by becoming a Patreon over at patreon.com/Linux Gamecast. We want to thank each and every one of you who help make everything that we do on this apparent network. Jill keeps using network. I don't understand.
Yeah, we're on the Linux Gamecast network. We've grown.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I just look at like the legal documentation. It doesn't say network on it, but hey, man, I want to believe
LLC.
LLP.
Yeah, LLP. Sorry, yeah.
I had to fill all that nonsense out. We asked for 4 quarters a week. If you got it laying around, we add that together. We bring you shows. We do all of our own hosting on top of everything else. We're not like, nobody's like stealing your data bits and privacy bits. It's quite expensive to hold 10 years worth of content online, but we're able to do it with your support. If you like what we do at Loud Live Independent, we don't run ads. I know Twitch has probably got ads, or you do it with a podcast. It's always going to be ad free, but we got some bonus sodas. We got some bonus sodas for those quarters. In fact, if you get more than a couple of quarters, we got some like bonus 50 gallon drums of happiness. Yes. We got the Bruce super
Very
shows, and we invite you to come listen to it before the show even starts. If you like the live thing, we got it in podcast format. This is about 45 minutes, 50 minutes. This show from beginning to end, and high quality production too, because I completely reworked everything because I know people want that big chunk of audio. It's about 2 hours long, hour and a half. Keep that in a custom RSS feed for our patrons. And, I was talking early in the show, like stuff I'm working on, stuff I'm doing here in the studio, videos, instructions, and guys like that. You always get the first taste because you're financing that getting made. And listen, you might call it a fool's errand, but I think us together working like that, we can get actual information in the hands of people coming over to Linux as opposed to, guesswork from the not that Linus.
The squeaky one.
Yeah.
The squeaky.
I very much appreciate that we got that nickname.
Hey, man. Linus, not that one, the squeaky one. That's,
Aw.
Yes, everyone immediately gets it.
Everyone knows what I'm talking about. All right.
We have a few people to thank then. So we have KRDucky, which is he's a new patron, and he's been very active in chat. And
that was fantastic. I saw that, and I wanted to bring up, it's always fun. We have access if you subscribe to us on Twitch, or if you're a patron, and we let you in our super secret, totally underground, don't tell anyone Discord thing to automatically sign you in. But it's great to see somebody pop in for the first time and have the my people moment.
Yeah.
You guys just talk about that stuff? Okay.
It's like, this is where you've been hiding. And then it goes
exciting.
places. And of course, me and Jill's husband are talking about early 60s, like cars that happens.
Yeah.
Then, Then we were trying, there was an entire afternoon spent of trying to get Doom Eternal up and running under Linux with an APU.
APUs.
And this is where it gets interesting is the creator of Lutris is working on this in Discord. And we're going through, and Pedro, I was like, Pedro, don't you have some? I was trying to get somebody to buy you a copy of the game, man. You're welcome, but nobody bid.
No. I did not get a free copy out of Doom Eternal on that one.
I thought somebody was going to slide one over to go. Like,
It's always fun to see Strider hanging out in our Discord because he can just let loose and be himself and say whatever he wants. And everyone expects nothing less from
mostly pictures of otters and capybaras, so don't get your hopes up to us. But
yeah.
Well, speaking of a Frenchman, we have another one. I think that sent a game, the Sildat. I haven't heard from him in a while. It's good to see him.
The Sildat actually just popped up in my Steam today. It's like, you have been gifted Pedal Crash.
Awesome.
Like flower petals, not bicycle ones. It's like, oh, thank you. And he said that. I was like, oh, I wonder if you guys like puzzles so much. Here you go. I was like, okay, all right. So thank you very much, the Sildat. That was very much appreciated. We will most definitely take you up on that offer.
Yeah,
at some point in the future.
Very
Honestly,
nice.
it's already been thing, but maybe next one.
Jeez, you going to put some more time on that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, come on. I think you can have 30 seconds. Just random noises, beeps and boops. Yeah, thanks for supporting us. And as always, here live, we have a Twitch bot, and it's a little custom creation that links for our live shows, that links our Discord, IRC, which IRC is available. Just head over to the live segment at Linux Gamecast, all the things. It's not Freenode anymore. It's
LiberaChat.
There we go. We made that change.
Pound Linux Gamecast on LiberaChat.
Yeah.
That is a thing. All right. Let's get into that button, because it's got that on it.
A teeny tiny.
But Ven,
little
you've
slice
shown
of
this
pie.
picture before. He's recycling.
Definitely. Yeah, that was definitely. Is that cherry pie?
I don't know.
Yeah, that
Or
looks like
cranberry.
definitely like cherry. Yeah.
A little
Cherry.
too dark to be
Cranberries
cranberries, I
wouldn't.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're held together a little better than cranberries are.
Ooh, throw in some shade at the cherries right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the teeny tiny little bit of slice of pie, because everyone already knows about this, but we haven't talked about it yet. There was, and I say was because it is still actively supported, and they are making more, but it's gone now because people bought every single one of them, a Mini ITX compute module motherboard. It's just a little baseboard that you put a compute
Seriously,
module for
So
in
awesome.
That looks like somebody did a miniature, like a home hobby kit, like the hobby cars that you glue together of a Dell Optiplex. When somebody bought a video card.
That's an ASRock A300 type of case. It's got a mini. It usually comes with mini DTX motherboards in them.
I'm sorry, everyone. I was just trying to make a joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is like the Velka. I can't remember the actual company name, but the model was the Velka. But yes, this particular baseboard that just takes your compute module 4, plug it in, and you can plug in a GPU. You can plug in a ton of NVMe SSDs. You can plug in a bunch of other things. And of course, Jeff Geerling he's been off to do recently, decided, well, I'm going to get one of them, and I'm going to plug in a GPU, and I'm going to plug in a bunch more things, and I'm going to show people what works and what doesn't work. After his video came out, every single unit that was available that they'd made for the initial run disappeared. So
He said within
we
a
gotta
few
wait now.
minutes, too.
Now, the reason this is kind of impressive, what you're throwing down there, is being out of stock so quick. I'm like, yeah, it's a Raspberry Pi thing that's born, it's like $30-$40, right? No, not even more.
$435. Yes. It's not cheap. And it immediately disappeared. So yeah, no, very good to the fine folks who created the Seaberry, as it's called.
Seaberry.
Yeah, it's very well done. I want one. I very much like the idea of like the Pi desktop machine. You put a Pi and then you just throw hardware at it and you see what works and what doesn't. I want to play that game. I do. But yeah, I can't buy them anymore. And for that price, I probably wouldn't either.
No, I
That's
think
just me.
with the compute module, maybe not even a Raspberry Pi branded compute module, but some of the Rockchip based ones, I could take that. It's got to do something. They got to like ramp up production to bring that cost down considerably before something like this is considerable. But to build a ARM based DAW, digital audio workstation, because that has a PCIe
that's a perfect
hole.
use case.
Buy one, and that's all you need for the audio. Something like low profile. But again,
perfect.
$400, but out of stock, in stock doesn't matter. That's outside of the like budget constraints of like that'd be neat to play around with.
Yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
What you need to do is make it $399 so I can hound Pedro about buying one.
Yes.
I mean, that would take a couple of months, but I could probably afford that one then. Yeah.
Yeah, I could put. Oh yeah, it's not about like afford. It's just put a lot of stuff on hold. What are you gonna do? A video.
Yeah. Yeah, I exactly feel the same way as you, Pedro. I really want one of these to play with because I love my little mini ITX computers, and having a custom Raspberry Pi motherboard in one just makes my geek heart shiver. I like it.
It's like the Raspberry Pi. That thing, it's like, it's that thing you use in like the gaming handhelds, the DIY ones, or that thing you learn to program on if you're young enough to do that. But for everyone else, it's like, it's seeing that thing turn into like a desktop system.
No, Pedro, I'm going to buy one, and I'm gonna do a video showing people how to mine Chia on it.
Chia pet.
Yes. Yeah. Guess that's what you can do with the M.2s.
I'm going to take advantage of that down arrow not having a number on it anymore.
Oh yeah, you could just dislike everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you would like to tell us about your Pi-powered projects or anything else that have going on, we have a handy-dandy, easy-to-use contact form that'll allow you to do just that.
We do, and it's cleverly hidden. Maybe you've never heard of this website, linuxgamecast.com.
You really would think it is.
Yeah. Considering, or that there's no text above it. But yes, if you go to linuxgamecast.com, there's a contact button on the nav bar. You click on that.
That goes to a page that says contact.
Yes. It gives you the contact form. There's some caveats at the top, so you got to scroll down.
Mm-hmm.
Not for tech support.
Not for tech support.
Okay.
But yeah, read the caveats at the top, basically. And if you'd like to send some feedback for this particular show, pick LWDW on the drop-down box, and we'll feature your thing right here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Also not for tech support.
Not for tech support.
This wasn't it. I don't know if like people are off for the holidays or whatever. They're like, oh yes, you're an official representative for Black Magic again. I'm like, no, I'm not. Don't leave a YouTube comment. Somebody will get back to you, maybe.
Was it the Da Vinci again?
It's always the Da Vinci.
Yeah.
It's always the Da Vinci. It's either that or like I bought something to try to hook up a FireWire interface that you never even mentioned. I'm like, have fun with that. I don't know anything about that. You know what? Here's what I'm thinking about doing is like setting up a drop down for tech support where it's just going to mail back. Let me Google that for you with the.
Aw.
An automated tech, the thing that they asked to the end of
pipe it,
LGMTF.
Yeah, do that, feed
Yeah.
that, and like spit out the link and email that back.
Yep.
Yeah. We wouldn't do that because that'd be mean. I'll let Pedro do it. So, on the topic of Linus, no, not that one, the squeaky one, Dan writes in, making things Linus-proof is a good thing. I'm sure it will introduce more scrolling for people who know, but for new Linuxers, it will be a big help to have the very basics given to us at the source. The biggest hurdle really for me after decades of abuse from Microsoft is that if that something doesn't work, I have absolutely no idea how to fix it. And sometimes the instructions on how to do so, once I Google, good on you, Dad, for them presume a level of knowledge in the reader I do not have. That is a challenge, Dan.
Or it's a roadblock.
Wheat from the chaff, Pedro. Wheat from the chaff. So, I'm your fellow entitled Linux user, gatekeeping, big meanie, but no, I'm not.
I thought that was me.
No, listen, I just laugh at that. I'm like, we're talking about basic life lessons that you can apply to literally everything. I give up. Mm-hmm. I'm like, come on.
That's how most people go about life, yes.
Yeah, I don't. That's not how old man Ben rolls. Okay, to continue. Maybe there could be two sets of instructions. One for you guys and one for people like me who need to be treated like idiots. No, that's why Windows exists. I don't care for Linus's
why Mac
work,
exists.
but that's for idiots with money. That's why Macs exist.
Yeah.
But he is pretty well situated to present the problems to people like me, have in front of the audience, thereby getting things to be made a little easier and getting new Linuxers who will eventually be on the not idiots instructions. Good work, Linus, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I defended the squeaky one last week. So
yeah. Pop OS is better for it. A bug was fixed.
The one thing I noticed, I talked about this
good.
on after the show. We do show Linux Gamecast weekly on Saturdays. It was on Friday. Friday they do the WEN show. Him and Luke.
Yeah.
And I didn't catch until I think the show was over. They were just doing the live stream. And I heard Linus bring up, a good thing came out of that. One project has even used my suggestions to improve their document. He was genuinely talking about the story last week. The commit was called Making This Idiot Proof.
Yeah.
For GoXLR. And here's the thing. Linux is not your jam if your modus operandi is, I've tried absolutely nothing and I'm all out of ideas. Linux is not going to work for you. It's not. If you're not curious, if you don't have a desire to learn, I'm being honest here. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it for you.
That's not going to change anyone's mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you really are going to have to, this hasn't changed, You need to have that desire of wanting to know how. You need to have been the kid that took stuff apart. Linux is going to work for you better because it's going to get you in that headspace of
People
how does this work?
tinker.
You're going to get curious. You're going to try to solve this one problem, and doing that, you're going to learn 6 new things. Now, if you see that as a horrible thing, not the operating system you're going to enjoy doing because you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn a whole new thing. And here's the big one I will always drag out. You had to learn how to use Windows, but you forgot that because you've been using it for so long.
Yes, now it's an inherent bias.
But that's different, Pedro. Do you see it?
That's the thing. Recognizing your own biases is very good. And this is not just for operating systems. Take a game. Take your ability to hold a game controller in your hands. You know that you hold it like this, right? Okay, mind the right hand, but you hold it like this. You don't hold it like this and go, I don't know what's going on.
Doing it right now, man.
Being able to know that you hold a controller like this is a bias. This is an inherent bias that you already have.
Yeah.
This is the stuff you need to learn to recognize.
I just like grabbing feet. These look like feet.
There's a lot of people who like grabbing feet.
Not like
but
that.
This is not that kind of podcast.
No. Pedro, I'm clearly talking about non-sexual feet grabbing here.
This is the internet. There is no such thing.
Probably not.
Well, Dan, he's already ahead of the game. The fact that he contacted us, and gave his opinion, which is true. This Linus is an average user on Linux, and I commend you, Dan, for writing us, and that step alone, is
I'll just go ahead and say, Linux isn't for Dan.
I'm curious and I want to learn and
not
start
what Dan's
using
saying.
Linux more.
Dan wants a version of Linux that, and this is being very honest, does not and probably will not ever exist.
Yeah,
it's that bit of a unicorn of the true user-friendly Linux distro, which seems, the more you look at it and what that would entail, seems fairly antithetical to the whole concept of Linux as a different operating system. Because if you want a Unix-like operating system that's easy to use, you go to macOS.
Yeah, BSD, use Android.
Chrome
use
OS.
Chrome OS. Yeah, good one, Jill.
Chrome,
That's where that experience is. And you're being extremely disingenuous when I bring something like that up, or anybody does. It's like, hey, it's a coalition of people just working together to create a thing that works differently for everybody. That's not gatekeeping. That's called reality. And that has been reality for 30 years. And you know what I was doing 20 years ago? I was having conversations with people how we're going to fix Linux and having the exact same conversations that we're having, that Linus was doing in his video. That's not new. That's not even old.
Yeah.
That's ancient. And you know what? Same story 20 years later. And
Yeah.
He's just the last really famous person to realize that.
It's like, it is a cycle. It's a cycle going through like, oh, I'm going to fix everything. Then it falls down. It's
like kudos. You got the GoXLR peeps to actually explain how you open a terminal, that you need to run their script with sudo. And I think they had to stop themselves from including you don't just right click, save the link as on GitHub.
Yeah.
Pedro, only developers can use GitHub.
Yeah,
Yes.
no,
And
only developers can use GitHub, and if you need GitHub, then Linux is just for developers.
Yeah.
What a
See,
sheltered life
GitHub
you've
is
led.
not. Yeah, GitHub is not Linux.
It's those West Coast Canadians, man. We're
it's
used to
just
dealing
like
with
in the
East Coast
Windows
Canadians.
world.
They're smart.
You know, in the
Yeah,
Windows
I
world,
know.
you can download some weird driver app on another website, but that's not Windows.
That's the thing. You want to go look for Windows software on GitHub? You know what you're going to find? Piracy tools. How to activate Office without paying for it. How to activate Windows without paying for it. That kind of stuff. Plenty of that on GitHub.
Well, I mean, you're putting your trust into going to random, not even random, but like manufacturers' websites to download their drivers, and I'm sure they're up to snuff 100%. Nothing could be put in that.
They're all legitimate, right? Because it's the brand. Right, Huawei? Right? Right?
Yeah, wow.
I don't know. I mean, I posted that in our Discord, or even during the live stream about how Linux helps prevent piracy, because it was legitimately on one of my TweetDeck feeds, somebody just railing, like, I just can't use Linux. It doesn't work with my, not making this up either. This exists.
Pirated software. Straight up
Pirated
pirated software.
Adobe,
Wouldn't
yeah.
work on Linux.
So I'm just not going to be able to use Linux, to which I say, excellent. Good Linux.
I don't know. I look forward to the next few parts. Again, I defended the squeaky one last week on a couple of points that he raised. Good points, too. He's raised plenty of bad ones. He keeps parroting the fragmentation thing, and I don't think he knows what that means.
He doesn't understand what fragmentation is.
He doesn't understand.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So I'll wait.
I can just see the
and give,
retort
like,
of it.
my
Yes, guys, I
full
know what
opinion
fragmentation
after.
is, but I'm trying to explain it to my audience. Like,
No, he heard that term associated with Linux because it seems to be a term that gets brandied about a lot, and I've already said my piece on that. It's not fragmentation, it's choice.
fragmentation.
Choice and experimentation.
Fragmenting too much on the way over.
Open source experimentation is choice.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, one thing you will absolutely discover about me, I don't care what operating system you run. I don't judge you on that. Grow up. On that bombshell, we got to get out of here. We're running a little bit long. I think we're going to spill up some music. Thanks some patrons. And roll some credits, because I'm going to touch my MIDI device until something wiggles, and I know I'm in the room. I do that.
That sounds way too sexy for Wednesday.
Oh. Thank you to all our beautiful patrons. We have some new people in chat. We've got
We do.
Two Tank
Make like
Hammond
KRDucky.
Jr. Yeah. We have some new patrons.
Omegas and Arthurian, following with our executive producers like Aldius, Barbara and Scott M, Mr. Foxdog, Atomic, Lost to the Ages.
Abstraction for Chicago kicks a lot of butt. And the Sea Monsters, Jack, Renault, Ryder, Trudgy, Vertinuda, Justin, Frostclaw, and someone else.
Take it away, Joe.
Jason B, Lord Maka, Joel W, Iris 121, AJ, Das Geek. That's as far as I can get.
Hey, beautiful people, just get out there, make something awesome, and have a good time when you're doing it. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Love you all.